Hi guys, Holly here with Integrative Yoga Method, and today we're going to explore your spiral line through an Integrative Yin class. So we'll be doing a little bit of movement and then inviting that sweet stillness that we find with our Yin postures. So the spiral line is a fascial line in the body that links a chain of muscles together, and they share this fascial continuity. So if we work with one end of the line, we can feel an effect or see a result through a completely different part of the body because they share this fascial continuity. It's a pretty complicated line, so today we're going to focus a little bit more just on the upper portion of the spiral line. It's a pretty interesting part of the body, I think, and I'll very briefly just show you where it is, but if you would like to dive a little bit deeper into the anatomy, the specific muscles, then we've got a separate video that you can hop over to, a short video to learn a little bit more. But the upper body portion of the spiral line actually begins at the base of the skull, just on one side. So running from the base of the skull down the neck, and then it jumps over and it crosses between the spine and the scapula, and then it actually runs under your scapula and wraps then around. I've got to keep turning because this line wraps around the body, and it wraps around the side ribs and then connects down to your external obliques, and then crosses the abdomen. So we'll be working a lot with this connection, this cross of the abdomen through twisting and spiraling motions. So it crosses the abdomen and then actually dips down into your internal obliques and connects down to the hip. And there's a whole leg portion. Again, if you want to learn more, you can hop over to that other video. So whenever we want to work with this line, inviting a lot of twisting movements and this idea of spiraling, which is just this concept of expanding and contracting, but never really losing our center. So we'll begin with a little bit of an exploration of that, just here seated. So find a comfortable seat, and if you find yourself seated and the knees are up kind of high, you might snag a blanket. Also for this practice, I like to do, we're going to do a little rolling on the floor, and so I like to just do this practice on like a big blanket. So you might have a blanket, have a block nearby and a blanket, and we'll get started. So take a moment just to find your comfortable seat and begin to connect to your breath and to your body. Let your breath wash up and down the length of the spine. And go ahead and float your eyes open, and we'll inhale, float the arms up overhead, lifting the ribcage away from the pelvis, and then float your arms back down and try to keep that sense of lift through your center. And we'll just tilt the left ear to the left shoulder, bringing the arm up and over, resting it over on that right side of the head. So find just a little bit of pressure, just gently pushing the head into the hand. And you should feel the side of the neck just start to fire a little bit. And keeping this sense of just a light contraction of the side of the neck, we'll start to spiral the body. So think of moving from your center. So you'll let the chin drop in towards the chest, gently roll the ear to the shoulder, and then let the head roll back, and then feel how the chest just naturally wants to open, dropping the ear to the other shoulder. And just begin to find maybe some smaller movements to begin with. You might even bring the right hand to the belly so you can feel this connection to your center as you start to spiral the head and the neck. And let your breath guide you. So as you exhale, you can find this little hollow of the belly. Let the chin drop in, and as you inhale, let the head roll back, let the chest open. And if spiraling isn't a practice that you're used to, it can feel a little awkward at first. So sometimes it's just closing your eyes, really getting out of your head, and just following where your body wants to go is your best guide. I'm going to take a moment to pause, and then we're going to spiral back the other direction. Again, inhaling to open, let the chest expand. Exhale to hollow. And keeping that just light muscle energy, pressing the head into the hand. Let's do one more spiral and then slowly guide your head back through to center. And go ahead and release your arms down beside you and just take a moment to kind of shake the arms out. And feel the difference between one side and the other. You might even float the arms up overhead. Feel how that difference maybe even translates down into the arms. Float the arms down. You can tilt one ear to the shoulder and the other. Notice there. So for the other side, if you have been sitting with the legs crossed, you might just switch directions with your feet. And keeping this tall spine, we'll go to the other side, tilting the right ear to the right shoulder and floating that arm up and over. Again, you can just let this left arm drop down beside you and then find that little bit of pressure, pushing the head back into the hand. So we're not starting in a big stretch. We're actually finding some muscle engagement through the side and the back of the neck. And as you're ready, you can exhale and hollow the chest and the belly. Inhale to roll open. Again, you might bring the palm to the belly to keep this connection to your center, just feeling the way that the body is contracting and expanding, but staying really connected to our core, to our center. You might take a moment and pause, and then we'll go back and spiral the other direction. And then as you're ready, inhale, make your way back up to a nice tall spine. Release your arms down beside you. Inhale, float both arms overhead. And just notice if there's a little bit more freedom of movement between the arms and the chest. And then from here, we'll just flip around and come into a tabletop position. Finding all fours, hands underneath the shoulders and knees underneath your hips. Just take a moment to move the spine a little bit through some gentle cat-cows. And then we'll walk the knees out just a little bit wider, bringing the two big toes to touch here. And then pick up your right arm, and we're going to thread it through. And we're going to find kind of a modified thread the needle where we're going to rest back in child's pose. So letting this right arm thread through, and then extending that left arm up and overhead. And taking a moment to shift around as you settle in. Let this right arm be really heavy. And feel the right side of the head where it connects to the floor. You might even roll a little bit across the temples. And then let the full weight of the head really drop into the support of the floor beneath you. And then you might begin to slide the left hand back. So you've got a few bus stops here. So the hand can anchor on the side, finding this little bit of traction, drawing that left shoulder in towards the spine. And if you have a little bit more range of motion, you can always wrap the arm around the small of your back, creating a release for the spiral line on the back side of the body. And just checking in, making sure that there's no really intense sensations in one spot, that this feels like a good all-over stretch and release. And begin to connect to a really deep belly breath here. Notice if there's any gripping or tensing around the hips. See if you can allow that to soften. And direct your breath into the back side of the body, into the space between your shoulders, to the back of the neck. And with each exhale, invite a sense of softening and release here. And taking one more deep breath in. One more slow breath out. And slowly release that left arm, stretch it back out in front of you, extending the right arm. And then take a moment to glide forward, walk your knees back, and let your hips dip down just a little bit to open up the front of the pelvis. Push into the palms, lift out of your shoulders. Exhale, draw the belly back, and tap your forehead to the mat, so not going all the way back. Inhale, roll the spine forward, and this time we'll set the pelvis all the way down. And taking your left arm out in front of you, go ahead and bend your right knee and just find a little pause here, pulling your heel to your bum. And peel the right knee up, reach your right toes back for the floor behind you. And then find the floor and just roll all the way to your back. So as you roll to your back, take a moment to stretch out nice and long. And then we'll open the arms out to a T position from here. And just use muscle energy to pull your knee into your belly. Do a couple of active hip rolls here, rolling the right hip around in its socket. So you can let the knee open into some external rotation, and then reach the knee over and move into a little bit of a hovering twist. Pull the knee back into the belly. Opening into external rotation. Crossing the midline, let your right hip lift. Rolling over into a little bit of a twist. Let's do that 2 more times with your breath. And this time as you're rolling to your side, we'll just slide that bottom leg up to meet it. Stack the knees and go ahead and lift your left arm up, and you might snag a blanket to place underneath your head for this. So you'll come onto your side and go ahead and lift your top arm up just a little bit. And then begin to reach it back overhead, keeping it lifted away from the floor. And start to let the chest spiral open, moving from the inside out. So you'll open the arm out to T and take a pause here. The arm will stay hovering over the floor. And then just keep sweeping the arm down beside you, rolling the chest closed. Reach the arm up and overhead, sweeping it out to a T position. Sweep the arm back down, one more spiral here, roll the chest closed. And this time we'll open the arm all the way out to a T position and land in a supine twist. So if you have a block nearby and you'd like to place a block between the knees, to help the shoulder and the arm if it's not quite making it to the floor, what you would do is just grab a block or a pillow or a bolster and lift the legs up a little bit higher, right? And that's gonna put some slack on this upper portion of the spiral line and allow it to twist and rest down with a bit more ease. So you can find any support here. Take some time to set up and make this just right. We'll be here for a couple of minutes, so give the body some time. just start to drop into that quiet space. And soften the right fingertips, forearm. And allow the head of the arm bone to begin to drop back into its socket. And breathe into your belly. Allow it to expand as you inhale. As you exhale, gently draw the belly in. And find maybe a little bit more of a twist just through the abdomen, just with that contraction of the belly. Staying connected to that deep belly breath. And your slow exhales out, finding that gentle contraction of the belly at the bottom of each exhale. If you've had anything between the legs or there for support, you might slide it off to the side. And then float your right leg up just a little bit. Reach down with your left hand and then pull your knee into your belly. And just feel that yummy stretch and release for the hips and low back. And then let that right knee draw you through to center. Take a moment to plant your feet. Lift your hips into just a little baby bridge pose, and then set the hips back down. Extend your legs all the way out, and then float your arms back behind you. You can remove the blanket from behind your head. Just slide it out of your way and let your right knee fall open. And again, if you'd like some support here underneath the knee, you can always find that. Just take a deep breath in here. Float the right knee up. Push off of your right foot and feel this spiral line connection, pushing off the foot, twisting through the belly and through the ribs, rolling all the way back to your belly. You can slide the hands back to frame your heart. Make your way up through a cobra. Push into the palms. Drop the belly in. Walk your knees out wide. 2 big toes to touch. And we'll find that thread the needle on the other side. So you'll slide the left arm underneath you. Begin with the right arm extended out in front, maybe even up on tinted fingertips to breathe some length into the side. And just begin to soften through the left shoulder. Release the full weight of your head onto the floor. Softening through the sides of the neck, at the base of the skull. And you can either just rest this right arm down or begin to slide the palm back. And a few options, maybe just pushing into the right hand to root the right shoulder blade a little bit closer to the left, allowing for a release there. You also have the option, if you've got the mobility, to wrap the arm around the low back. Make sure that wherever you've landed, there's always this sense of ease. We're never going to that end range of motion, leaving the body with a lot of space and time to open. Using this time to connect to your breath and really connect to all the little sensations that this pose brings. Notice if there's any sense of gripping or tension around the hips. See if you can soften that. And taking one more really deep breath here. And one more slow breath out. You can slowly release that right arm. Take your time. Extending the right arm out in front, sliding the left arm to meet you. And then glide your way forward. Walk the knees underneath your hips. And let the hips drop down, allowing the front of the hips to open after that time of compression. Push into the palms, drop the head, pull the belly back, maybe tap the forehead to the floor, and then glide your way forward. And we'll lower to the belly, lowering the thighs, the pelvis, coming all the way down. As you come down, you can extend your right arm out in front and bend your left knee, and just take a moment to pull the left heel to your bum. And peel the left thigh up, and then just reach your toes back behind you to find the floor, and you'll land on your back here. Take a moment to shift and adjust if you need to. If you'd like, you can grab a blanket to place underneath your head here. It's always nice for the head to feel supported and keep the neck nice and neutral as we twist. And so just using muscle energy, start to pull that left knee into your belly. And we'll start with those hip rolls, opening the left knee out. Slowly letting it cross the midline of the body and then rolling into like a little half kind of hovering twist. And as you're rolling the hip around in its socket, again, keep this connection to your core. Let your core support the leg as it kind of floats around in space. And you just find a range of motion here that feels best for you and your hips. So these can be big or they can be small, as long as we're balancing effort with ease. And then the next time that you're rolling over into that little bit of a twist, we'll go ahead and slide the bottom leg up and stack the knees. And again, if you'd like to place something between the knees here, prop underneath or something between, you might just do a little check. One side can be different from the other. So as you open that left arm out to T, if it doesn't quite want to rest on the floor, then that's when I would suggest propping something underneath the legs here. But we'll spiral a little bit before we land in the twist. That'll help things open. So go ahead and roll all the way to one side, stacking your hands, and lift that top hand up just a little bit. And then reach through that arm, gliding it back behind you overhead. And then let the chest spiral open, waving the arm out to T. It'll draw down beside you, and the chest will spiral close. So as the arm moves in space, let these movements again start from your core, and then the arm just follows. And the next time you roll that arm out to a T position, we can land here for our twist. You might take a moment to shift and adjust. Make this feel just right in your body. Support yourself however you need to. And begin to layer on, again, that really deep belly breath. Breathing into the belly, feeling that sense of expansion. As you exhale, draw the belly in and maybe start to draw that left side of the rib cage away, initiating maybe a little bit more of a twist. Just doing a little body scan as you rest here. And checking for any areas of tension, any areas where we're still holding or gripping. One more deep breath into your belly. One more slow breath out. And gently lift that top leg up just a little bit. Reach down with your hand and just glide that knee into the belly. Take a moment here to breathe into the low back and the SI joint. And then just let this leg glide you back to center. Take a moment to plant your feet. Shift your hips and shoulders. Bring them back in line with your spine. Push into your feet. Peel the hips up into a tiny little bridge pose just to really come back to your center. And then roll down. You can extend your right leg out and let your left knee fall open into a little fallen tree. Floating the arms back behind you overhead. You can go ahead and reach back and remove that blanket behind you. And then float your left knee up and push off of the inner edge of that foot and slowly reach out through the knee to roll you all the way to your belly. And you'll roll to your belly, slide your hands back to frame your heart, and roll up through cobra. Push into the palms, pull the belly in and up, stretch the hips back towards the heels.